How does the Creality Ender 3 lives up to more than 1 year of use, what upgrades I did, and problems I had. Take into account that this is my first 3D printer and still the only one. Don't forget, below in the video description you will find links to everything I talk about in this video. Welcome to TechNoob's channel, my name is Miguel. For starters, in this video I assume you already have seen the first reviews upon launch of the Ender 3, more than a year ago, by YouTubers from the 3D printing community. That being said, let's begin with my experience. Starting with the assembly, I only came across two issues. The first was that the printer was unleveled, so I had to loosen these two screws and the two from the opposite side. Put the printer on a leveled plane and force the four corners to touch the plane. After the printer was leveled, just had to tighten the four screws back up. The second issue was the Z end stop. Had to clip off the guide to lower it down a bit because even with the springs of the bed all loose, the nozzle didn't get close to the bed. And that was it. But from what I have seen, only the frame leveling is still an issue. I will leave in the description an assembly by Chris Riley for reference, since he also made this video 1 year after the printer's release, and check as he goes in detail how to do it. Things to watch out for. There were problems with the XT60 connectors. Mine did not have, and I believe it's not corrected. The ground-earth connection of the power supply may be faulty. Mine did have this situation. I will leave a link in the description to a video by the breadboard where it's explained how to fix it. And the last thing is the main board fan. Mine came working with the part cooling fan, and that was a problem since the part cooling fan is off when printing the first layer, so there was no cooling the steppers and the main board. I will leave a link to a video by Chep where he explains how to fix it very well. Problems. Only one, well, two. But the second is to expect after 1 year. The first and the most important one is the extruder bracket. After only 8 months it literally came apart. It was so brittle, but I already had bought an aluminum one to replace it, and it works great. The clog came because the Bowden tube began to wiggle in and out from both couplers. So I had to buy a new much better ones and solve the problem. One other upgrade I made was one that the stepper motor dampers, one for the Y and one for the X stepper motor, to make them so much quieter. As an option, you can buy the new Creality motherboard version 1.15 with the silent stepper drivers, but I think for now it defeats the purpose for a low budget 3D printer, as in that case you can opt for the Ender 3 Pro, but still it won't have the silent board, but the new Ender 3 version 2 does, but the price is much higher too. One last upgrade I made was the silicon sock for the heat block, as eventually you will have a misprint and get a blob on the nozzle, and it's easier to take it out if you have one, but it seems the Creality already includes one or two. Other optional upgrades I made, one was the SD card slot and one other was heat sinks for the NEMA 17 steppers, to make them cool. Why not? These were the paid upgrades I made. Of course there are more things to buy to have on hand, like a spare sheet of build plate, spare nozzles, part cooling and hot end fans, Bowden tube and a deburring tool. Now for the free upgrades. All of these I think is a must-have in this order. First is the fan guard, because eventually we'll have a noodle print and it can fall on top of the fan, causing it to jam and overheat the board. Just to clarify, if the print bed is well leveled, it is very unlikely to have a misprint, and I have printed more than 10 prints without having to level the bed. After the upgrade of the aluminum extruder, you will need this cable holder. Coupler pressure fittings, but again the Ender 3 now ships with them. Filament guide, this cable protector, display ribbon cable clip, the power cable clips, display rear cover to protect the PCB, extruder knob, Z-knob for the rod, print this one at 98%, anti-snag end cap. I reduced the depth by 60%, but it never was an issue. And finally, I've used this tool holder. There are many options on Thingiverse, Also, with my SD card reader upgrade, I used this mount. Before that, I had this cover to protect the rail. The slicer software I use is Cura. At the time of filming, it's version 4.6. It already has an Ender 3 profile that works very well. And first of all, don't forget to switch between 210 volts and 220 volts AC depending on your region. Be mindful that you will have to be a tinkerer, because eventually you will run into some kind of problems, none of which can be solved by googling, as online there is a large Ender 3 community and other Creality printers that share the same electronics and hardware. But this is my experience with the Ender 3. So far, it's a good one. Again, below in the video description you will find links to everything that I talk about in this video. Keep in mind that even with the paid upgrades, it still will be sub $200 euros 3D printer. I still believe this printer is unbeatable for the price and great as a first printer. Hope this video was helpful. If so, give it a like, subscribe for more tech related videos. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next one.